defense reporter with Epoch Times. Good afternoon, Andrew. So big picture wise, what were Israel's main military objectives in launching Operation Rising Lion, and where do they stand now?
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me, Don. So there's two primary objectives that Israel's given. Those are to destroy Iran's nuclear enrichment capability, as well as its ballistic missile program, or at least severely degrade the latter. It's been immensely successful thus far. It's taken over air dominance of most of Iran, basically grounding any air capabilities that Iran has. So it's been very successful thus far. They have struggled a little bit to hit Iran's underground nuclear enrichment facilities because the Israeli military hasn't been equipped with the sort of digging type of bombs that are designed specifically to hit underground bunkers like that, but they have been immensely successful thus far.
Okay, but overall, how much damage have Israel's strikes done to the nuclear infrastructure in Iran?
We've seen a tremendous amount of damage to Iran's nuclear infrastructure. We've seen its enrichment facilities largely devastated, with the exception of the facility at Fordow. We've had reports now that even the underground facility at Natanz, which is Iran's largest nuclear and uranium enrichment plant, that's been damaged there, which there was some question as whether Israel would actually be able to damage that from the air. We've also witnessed a wide-ranging assassination program targeting military officials within Iranians' IRGC, which are associated with its ballistic missile program, as well as nuclear scientists who worked on its enrichment programs.
And what about the impact the Israeli strikes had on Iran's air defense systems?
Yeah, so that's probably the point where Israel has been the most successful. We've seen missile silo after missile silo and airbase and radar system just destroyed one after the other in very quick succession. It only took about 4 days, really, for the Israeli military to successfully cripple most of Iran's defenses in the western part of the country, which has sort of opened the floodgates for Israeli aircraft to enter the airspace more freely and target more infrastructure.
And Prime Minister Netanyahu talked about a regime change in Iran. Can you talk to us about this possibility?
Yeah, so that's probably the most interesting wide-sweeping change that could occur from this operation. It also hints at sort of the wider strategic context of this conflict, right? This is not just a conflict that is focused on the ballistic and nuclear program, so that is the focus. It is also oriented around Israel taking this opportunity to eliminate or at least significantly degrade its largest adversary. And Israel's been laying the groundwork for that since the October 7th attacks a year and a half ago. So we've now seen Israel completely cripple Hamas and Hezbollah and conduct strikes against the Houthis, all of these Iranian proxy groups in the region. And has really, really decimated that sort of axis of resistance that Iran had built up against Israel and other nations in previous decades. And so now Israeli leadership is really taking the opportunity to press that advantage and launching this military campaign that could potentially at least weaken, if not destroy, the current regime in Iran for decades to come.
Okay, you mentioned the Fordow nuclear facility earlier, and I want to go a bit deeper into that. Can you give us more detail as to why it's a difficult target?
Yeah, so Fordow is an interesting site. It was developed in the early 2000s, largely covertly. We didn't really know about it until, I think, between 2011 and 2013, when a sort of disgruntled official from Iran who had been exiled made the facility public. And so this facility is another major enrichment facility, but it is buried into the side of a mountain and also most likely reinforced with multi-meter concrete barriers. And so that makes it an incredibly difficult target to hit with an airstrike. At present, the only capability that's really believed to be to the task that's non-nuclear is probably a specific set of bunker buster bombs developed by the United States. It's actually a bomb that was augmented and modified about a decade and a half ago when we first discovered the Fordow program, and it was explicitly designed and modified to attack that facility. And so the way these bombs would work is they would drop into the mountain and then they dig about 200, 250 feet before detonating. Even that probably wouldn't be able to significantly damage the facility and would require several bombs to be dropped.
So then the immediate question is, what are the risks for the United States if it assists Israel in striking Fordo?
Yeah, so that's the big question, because the United States is currently the only nation that has these bombs. It's also the only nation that has aircraft outfitted and equipped and programmed to use these bombs right now, which is the B-2 Spirit bomber. So it could have incredible and wide-ranging implications for the United States. This would effectively get us involved in another Middle Eastern war. It's a point of contention in the Trump administration. And Trump has obviously championed himself on the campaign trail as being able to keep us out of these sort of foreign entanglements, but that's definitely being tested right now. That's an assumption that it has not been closed in terms of the debate. So there is the risk that we could be drawn into a major conflict. Also doing so would obviously make us a greater target for Iran's allies. We've obviously seen most of them weakened when we think about regional proxy groups, but Iran does have much larger national partners, specifically Russia, North Korea, and China, who it does do business with and it does maintain some relations with. So there is a real risk there of, if the United States joins this war, it could spark something much larger in terms of just a new era of even worse relations internationally and possibly open conflict.
So if Fordo is bombed, let's say multiple times, and the facility is damaged, are there radiation risks?
It's unclear right now how the enrichment plant right now is being secured at Fordo, so we can't really say. Obviously, a key concern with bombing any nuclear plant is the spread of radioactive material. So far, we have not had any significant indications of that at the other facility, in Natanz. It appears to be largely contained locally, but there is always a risk of worrying about how these isotopes are going to interact and if we're going to trigger something radioactive. But I don't think that's the largest concern right now. I think a much larger concern is just the geopolitical implications of the United States getting involved.
Well, okay, Andrew, that's all for today. Thank you again for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me, Don. It's a pleasure to be here.